Hey guys, DM Cubing, and today I present my GTS2 M on the road to perfection. My job has had me kind of busy this summer, so there are a lot of projects I intend to get to, just haven't had time. But during this busy time for me, I'm still working on perfecting the GTS2. It's a great cube that I find is one of the most versatile cubes as far as the different magnetic strengths and sizes that it can handle. You can put a very weak magnet in it, you can put a very strong magnet, and still get a very usable magnetic cube. I've done 10 prototypes, and I keep updating my description on my tutorial for this cube, and it's gotten to a point now where I can't add any more text because it won't save it. It's too long, as YouTube is saying. So I thought I'd better just kind of present all of this into a video where it's all, together and maybe handy for people that want to try different magnets and see what I've discovered, or kind of look at what I've discovered and try your own magnets and see what works for you. Everybody's a little bit different. Some people prefer stronger strengths, some people prefer weaker strengths. But in this video, I intend to show what I found using different magnetic strengths. So here we go. My first two prototypes used N35 4mm by 2mm magnets from magnets365.com. It's worth noting here that these magnets are slightly undersized, so their true measurement is about 4mm by 1.7mm. And it's enough of a difference where you will feel that these are a little bit more subtle than other people's 4x2 N35 magnets. In the GTS2, it made a really good magnetic cube. These magnets also work very well in the GAN Air and the Valk 3. So these first two prototypes were part of my 3,000 subscriber giveaway. One was black and then another one was stickerless. Very good magnets for this cube. Number 3 was also part of my giveaway, and it was an N38 4mm by 2mm, and those magnets I got from gossboys.com. This is what I would consider the strongest that you would want to use in this cube, unless you just really like to feel magnets. But I think the N38 is like right at the line. I really wouldn't recommend going anything stronger than that because you do feel the bump and you really do feel the magnets. The faster you move, the bumps smooths out. But the N38 is on the stronger side, and like I said, I wouldn't go any stronger than that. The next prototype number 4, used N42 4mm by 2mm magnets from Gossboys, and this was really a little bit overly strong. I guess if somebody had a very aggressive solve style and really liked to feel a pronounced magnetic pull force strength working in their cube, this would be okay, but personally I wouldn't recommend N42, not for very many cubers. Prototype number 5 was a failure. I keep wanting to come up with a successful center magnetized cube. This is where you take the magnets and instead of magnetizing the edge to the corners, what you're doing is you're magnetizing the center pieces to the edge pieces. It requires a very strong magnet to pull it off. It's just, I've had, what is this, like 3 or 4 that I've tried different cubes, and each one is a failure. This one just didn't produce a magnetic feel. And I used N38 4mm by 2mm Gossboys magnets, which is a fairly strong magnet. Maybe I could have used N52. I don't recommend doing this personally because when you present do-it-yourself tutorials, in a way, even though I'm not responsible for what people do and the mistakes they make, still you kind of feel a bit responsible as far as presenting people with a challenge. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not going to recommend this because the chance of having glue go everywhere and some real bad failures is very high. It's just very difficult to glue magnets into very tight, small, squeezed in little places like this. So it was a failure. There's absolutely no magnetic feeling at all to the cube as you're solving it. The magnets just are not perceptible at all. Prototype number 6 is an interesting cube because it's the first cube I've ever used 5mm by 1mm magnets in. I used N52 grade strength available from gossboys.com. The idea of using 5mm width is an innovation by Chris Tran. It's what he uses in the cubicle standard version of the GTS2 M. And it's interesting. What this extra little width of magnet does is it extends somewhat the magnetic field. So as you're moving a face around on the cube, you still have a bump, but really it's kind of hard to describe unless you feel it for yourself. It's a little mushier of a bump. It's not as drastic. It's not as clicky as a bump as it is a little more mushy. And extending the magnetic field just a little bit really makes the cube stable and the magnetic, what we call a bump, subtle. It's a 1mm thick magnet, so it's going to be a little bit weaker than the 4x2 in a comparable grade. Works great. I sent this prototype to Jay Lewis, and he gave me his feedback on that. And we'll get back to the 5x1s because I have another strength that I want to talk about in a little bit. Prototype number 7 used N35 4mm by 2mm magnets from Goss Boys. This is definitely in the middle of the road, a medium magnetic strength cube. So it's not subtle, it's not strong, it's exactly in the middle of the road, the N35 full-size 4mm by 2mm magnets. Prototype number 8. Now, anybody who's subscribed to me or has been for a while knows that I've magnetized lots of cubes. This cube I consider the best magnetic cube I've ever made, honestly. Prototype number 8 uses grade N48 5mm by 1mm magnets from apexmagnets.com. What can I say? This really is truly my favorite cube. There's something, like I said earlier, about the 5mm width that extends the magnetic field, the attraction. It reduces the bumpiness or clickiness, as some people call it, and it just seems like the perfect magnetic strength. It's kind of like equivalent to a grade N35 and a 4mm by 2mm. Not too subtle, not too strong, just right in the middle of the road. A perfect cube as far as I'm concerned. I did some experimenting comparing this cube to the Cubicle Labs GTS2 M standard. Both use a 5mm by 1mm magnet, and when I took the individual cubie pieces apart and compared their magnets to my magnets, the strength felt identical. I can't say for sure that they use a grade N48, but I know that my grade N48s that I got from Apex Magnets is very comparable to what they're using. Now, they position their magnets in a different place within the edge piece and the corner piece, and I put mine on an opposite side. And there's a little bit difference between the measurement from where the magnet is to the core, so that changes subtly how we perceive the magnetic strength. Their cube may feel slightly more subtle than mine, but or it could be the lube that they used on my particular one, but their cube feels slightly more subtle than mine. But this is a great magnet for this cube, the grade N48 5mm by 1mm. Prototype number 9 is identical to prototype number 8 since I sent 8 out for testing. Prototype number 10 used a grade N35 5mm by 1mm magnet from Magnets365.com. This is the most subtle GTS2M that I have. It's really interesting that there is no perceptible magnetic bump or click whatsoever. You just don't feel the magnets clicking or bumping at all. But as you're solving, you do feel that the magnets are doing something positively. It's interesting. It's kind of like having a magnetic cube that's not magnetic. I mean, you don't feel the magnets, but you're getting the effect of the magnets in it. Very subtly, though. I wouldn't recommend this for very many people unless you just want the slightest hint of some magnetic activity in your cube. And that's it. That's all I've done so far. Well, so far, 10 different prototypes. I don't know. I may test a grade in between N35 and N48. The owner at Goss Boys said that he would carry some 5mm by 1mm in either a 42 or a 45 strength. So I'm still kind of debating which one I should get. Probably the N42, because I think that would be on the lower end of the spectrum of strength, but not so subtle like the N35 where you're not going to feel it much at all. So, and then we have the N48 already covered by a different company. So that's my findings. I thought I'd share this with people. Again, I apologize that I haven't, I know that there's lots of projects that I've promised people, but they just have me working more hours during the summer, and I get home very late. And even though I have weekends and Fridays off, those are the days that I use catching up on stuff that I could have done if I got off at regular hours during the week. So my apologies for that. Hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. And hey, we'll see you the next time around. Happy cubing, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.